Well, good morning, everybody. It probably isn't morning by the time this is put on to YouTube, so good afternoon as well. I am going to attempt to make a candy corn embroidery patch. So, like, we're going to pick it up off this rock and go sew it onto a backpack. Yeah, or a hat, or whatever. Maybe you know someone who has a collection of patches. I thought it would be really cool to try and recreate one. So, kind of like an illusion of it being a patch sitting on a rock. You will have to start off with a very light colored stone. So I've grabbed one that is going to darken slightly when I seal it, but I'm actually not even going to seal it for this video. We're just going to leave it the way it is. But if you do seal it, you have to keep in mind it's going to darken, and we're going to want to see the shading or the shadow under the patch. So we'll do that part later. Right now, we're going to find the colors of our candy corn, and I'm going to lighten it. I'm going to use orange, moon yellow, and white, but you have to lighten each one of them. So if you're using orange, you're going to want to lighten that with some yellow or even some white so that you can blend inside the orange space. And if you're using moon yellow, you're going to want to add some white to your moon yellow so that you can lighten it. And we're going to use both shades of moon yellow, the lightened and the non-lightened. We're going to use both shades of orange. We're also going to use a darker orange. But I want you to use sponges or blending brushes to do this part. I'm just trying to give it the illusion of it being kind of shiny, kind of like the strings from embroidery or embroidery thread, how it kind of has like a shine to it, and you can kind of see the texture of it. So we're trying to make it so that it looks like the texture of embroidery. I'm going to do the best I can, but I thought it would be a cool idea. I'm going to do a bat or a pumpkin as well. I apologize for that sound. It seems as though my neighbor is struggling with their alarm on their little scooter, I think it is. I'm not sure what it's called. It's not a moped. I might get in trouble for calling it a moped. I think I might have aged myself. So you can see where I'm kind of keeping the upper part of the yellow lighter and the lower part darker. I'm going to do the same with the orange. I didn't feel like it was light enough, so I'm lightening my orange a little bit more. Sorry for the hand getting in the way. My hands kind of take over. So I'm going to do the same thing. It's going to be a little bit lighter up top, and it's going to get darker down the bottom. Same, I'm going to do a little bit of dove gray in the white to also give it the illusion of it being highlighted. You're going to keep hearing that. I'm really sorry. It was fine until I hit the record button, I swear. So I'm using a darker orange now because I still didn't feel like the orange I was using was dark enough, and I want it to be much darker at the bottom. So I'm using blending brushes. I'm rinsing them off in a clean bowl of water in order to not get the colors mixed together. And basically I start with a very fresh, clean, dried off sponge. With each time I use a different color. You don't want to mix them together at all. So I'm going to do a little bit of dark gray. So I mixed some dove gray with some black, and I've made a darker shade of gray. We're going to be going back and forth between different shades of gray, white, and black for the rest of the frame around the patch, where it's usually the part that you sew onto something. but it's also embroidered. So there's like a frame around the entire patch. That is going to be different shades of gray with white and some black. So just kind of keep an eye on what I'm doing. You'd think that the blending is going to be the difficult part sometimes, but I actually found the blending much easier than doing the texture for the embroidery. It's not easy doing texture. But you are going to need a fine lining brush. So if you don't have one, you might want to take a look at my tutorial called Fine Lining Brush. Literally just search in the search bar on YouTube, Rachel's Rocks Fine Lining Brush, and it will come right up. You might want to make one for this project because you're going to need to do the embroidery texture using a fine liner and a small blending brush like the one I'm using right now. I'm actually blending in some Dove Gray underneath here. I am going to lighten it in with white in some areas where I would think the light is hitting, because embroidery thread does have a bit of a sheen. So I want it to kind of show that in some way, but I didn't go to school for this. Keep in mind. Bear with me. This is all just going by what I think it's going to look like. What I think it should look like, or what it looks like in my mind, or if I take a look at patches on Google or Pinterest, this is what I see. So hopefully this comes across okay. But I thought it would be fun to do some patchwork and do a couple for, of course, the spooky season. So maybe I'll do a bat and something else. I don't know yet. We'll see. But let me know what you think of these, like this kind of idea. If you want to do like a leaf or a heart or something, I can do that. Just leave in the comments what you want to see done in a patch, and we'll see what we can come up with. So this is where I'm going to texture. I'm going to leave the frame alone right now. We're going to call it a frame. I'm going to leave that alone and let the gray paint dry, but I'm using my darkest yellow. Even if you mix some orange in with your yellow and you get a darker shade, that's all you need. And I'm coming up from the bottom because that's where it would be darker, is the bottom of the thread. So I'm making it look like the thread is, or the light is hitting the top part of the threads. So it kind of goes golden, you know? That's what I'm trying to go for. Same thing with the orange. I'm using my darkest orange and I'm coming up from the bottom and bringing it up so it looks like there is a bit of sheen to the thread. Hopefully you can see what my brain is making. What my brain's got cooking. Who knows? I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do a little bit of gray at the bottom of my white. I know it looks like it's at the top, but it's flipped over. So it's really coming up from the bottom. So I'm doing gray lines. We're going to keep most of the top white. But hopefully that looks like it would be shiny thread. But like I said, you tell me, and tell me what I should do differently. Should there be a little bit of blue in the thread there for the white? I'm not really sure. I'm just doing what I think. And hopefully the point gets across. This is supposed to resemble a patch that you sew onto something. So now I'm going to bring in some dark gray and some black. I'm kind of outlining that so that it looks like it's separated, this little frame. And I'm just going to go around that. You definitely need a fine lining brush for this task as well. So get comfortable with your fine liner. Mine is my best friend and I make it last for as long as possible. We have a relationship together, me and my fine lining brush. Same with my blending brush and my sponges. But It's like good old reliable. You know what I mean? Once you build a relationship with your fine lining brush, you can pretty much do anything, but don't be too hard on yourself and give it time, because I've had honestly 11 years experience making my own fine lining brushes, and I've only made like maybe 4 or 5 in the last 8 years. They usually last me a while, unless I use a different kind of paint and it kind of like ruins my brush for some reason. But yeah, you have to build a sturdy relationship with your fine lining brush, and lots of practice. So don't give up, even if it looks like I make it look easy. At one point, I was where you are. I started at the beginning. So if I can do it, you can do it. So I am taking a bit of white with my blending brush, and I'm highlighting certain areas in the white on top of the dove gray on the outer border. Most of it was dove gray, but I've highlighted some areas where I think the light is going to hit that part. Because once again, these stitches, embroidery stitches, are also shiny. The white is, so I'm trying to make it look as though they're stitches the best I can. So I'm using my gray now, and make sure if the light is not shining on that part, that you come from that side. So I try to adjust. When I get to the top of the candy corn, I actually have to go underneath again with my gray lines. You'll be able to see in a second, but I'm going around where I think the darker area would be, and I'm just kind of swiping it really lightly, trying not to bring it onto the orange and yellow and white. We want to keep it within that border. You might have to go back in and fix your outline, go back in between the border and the color and put your line again, because you might have painted over that with some of these little threads that we're doing, the illusion of thread. You might have to fix some stuff afterwards. Just go easy. I'm not moving this fast. This is sped up so that you don't fall asleep while watching. But you can see it kind of looks fuzzy now because I've been messing with all these little tiny pinstripes. But we're going to clean it up, and we're going to do a black outline. And it's kind of already looking like thread to me. I don't know, if I kind of blur my vision a little, it has the illusion of a patch. I can see it. I'm starting to see it. I'm hopeful. I sat on this for quite some time. I waited like all week. I knew I had this in my mind, and I knew I wanted to do a patch. But I wanted, maybe we could do something, maybe because it's the season of Halloween coming, and I know you like to prepare early. So I thought, I got to do something that's Halloween-y, and we'll do a patch. But I really was nervous about creating this. So I sat on it for a few days. And then when I finally decided to do it, I just went for it and got it all done in I think like maybe it was like an hour and a half in total. So yeah, it was actually fun, and I enjoyed it. So I am going to use a fine dark gray line to separate the colors, the yellow and orange and white. And I'm just making sure that I have some brighter lines up top here in the orange. I've outlined the entire thing. We no longer have that annoying alarm system going off, so thank you. We have some peace and quiet. I am making sure that the line around the inside of the border is nice and clean, and I haven't painted over any of that. And I kind of feel like in order to make this look a little bit more realistic, more like an illusion, we're going to add some shading. So the underneath and around the very sides, we're going to add some watered down black paint. So I use a couple of drips of water from a bottle of fresh water and mix it to my black paint. And then I'm using my blending brush to come underneath or I'm calling it a patch because it's now a patch. So we have to go underneath and shade it as if it were kind of raised up off the rock slightly because it's a patch, right? We're about to pick it up and sew it onto our jacket because we love Halloween and we love candy corn. I don't personally like the taste of candy corn, but I will tolerate it if that's the last thing in my candy bag. I will tolerate it. So I'm going to do like a little string off here, and I'm going to use my watered down black paint to do a shadow of that string. I used the dark gray for a string, but I'm also going to highlight that dark gray string with some white so that it looks a little bit shiny once again. So I've done 2 pieces of thread that are kind of stragglers. I'm going to add a little highlight to that. And then the shadow is just slightly underneath it, as you can see. I don't know. I think that makes it look even more like a patch, but you tell me. Get creative with it. If you prefer to have like a black and gray looking border, that's up to you. I did a white one. It just felt like it looked right to me. But let me know. I'm going to put this on TikTok and see what people think. Hype it if you can. If you have a hype button, you should be able to hype 3 times a week on videos that have been posted in the last 7 days, but only on mobile apps or iPads, I believe. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for painting with me again. Stay tuned for another patch coming because this was fun and I really enjoyed it. I love you guys. Bye.